Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing the line distribution of Loona's So What. I'll be going into the reasons I have seen people brush off the distribution and dispute them. I'll mostly be focusing upon Vivi in this video, but I will also touch on yeojin and yeoji. Firstly, a quick disclaimer, I'm aware that So What by Loona is not the only culprit of a bad line distribution, however it is a great example of how a bad line distribution sends a wider message. Also, this is not a hate video towards the members of Loona which get a good amount of lines. I'm a Loona OT12 stan, and I love each girl very much. If I give examples of members which are treated more favorably in terms of center time or line distributions, this is simply to give context. Firstly, I think it's important to discuss the reason why line distributions matter so much. That reason, put simply, is the exposure that members with more lines receive compared to other members. Loona is a girl group with 12 members, which means it's difficult to stand out within the group. Couple this with the fact that some members get over 10 times the amount of lines as others, and you might start to see an issue. Ultimately, at the point where Loona disbands, if we're extremely lucky there will be 5 members who truly made a name and face for themselves within the industry. It seems a shame that BBC has already decided for us who those members should be. One thing I've always loved about Loona is their pre-debut project. It really sets them apart from other groups because it shows that each member has the talent to hold up as a solo artist. It sends the message that each member is unique and special. The fact that they were all given solos has always told me that BBC sees something individually marketable about each member, and that each of them deserves to shine. However, I feel like the So What line distribution, as well as the high line distribution, completely undermines this message. It is so extremely disappointing to have BBC set up Loona as a group of extremely talented and well-rounded girls, and then only allow 5 or 6 members to actually show off this talent. Now moving on to the So What line distribution itself. I've already made a video where I improved the distribution, and let me tell you it was not difficult to give each member a roughly equal amount of lines. I'm not saying that every member needs to have the exact same number of lines, because I acknowledge that some members are better suited to the line or have stronger vocal ability, and of course they should be able to show off their talents. However, for Hyunjin to get 10 times the amount of lines as Vivi is inexcusable. Also, at least for me, I think the best singers should sing the most difficult parts of the song, not to necessarily have the most amount of lines. For example, in the context of So What, the bridge distribution is perfect to me. The strongest singers in the group get to show off their voices really nicely. Therefore, the way I see it, there's no reason why those same members should get a lot of lines in the verses. There were so many verse parts that were well suited to members like Vivi, yeojin and yeoji, and yet those lines were given to the members which already had their chance to shine. I actually think that it is okay for members to be given fewer lines, but only if they are given the chance to shine in other areas, for example if they are given a lot of center time or screen time in the music video. In the case of Loona, it seems that members either get all of these things or none of them. Let's take Kim Lip as an example. In So What, she gets the second most amount of center time, third most amount of lines, and fourth most amount of screen time. Compare this to Vivi, who ranks last in all 3 of these categories, or yeoji, who ranks bottom 3 in all of these categories. It just sends the message that some members are more important, or more deserving of success than others. I hope you know what I mean when I say that this is just simply unfair. I find this particularly laughable given that BBC recently changed the members' positions so that there are a no fixed positions group. The idea is that who is the main vocal, main rapper etc. varies with the concept. However, I really can't see this being the case. Loona's music spans many genres, and yet somehow Hyunjin and Kim Lip always end up with the most lines, whereas Vivi, yeojin and yeoji always end up with the least. If they chose lines based on genre, you would expect to see at least some variation. At least make it make sense. I've seen the argument time and time again that Vivi doesn't fit the concept for So What. To be honest, this is just a bold-faced lie. If you have seen any of her fancams from So What era, the Cherry Bomb dance cover, or the BTS So What special stage, you will know for a fact that she pulls of this concept really well. Vivi bodies dark concepts masterfully, and visually she fits the concept really well too. Her teaser photos are some of the best from the group in my opinion. There's just no excuse. I've seen a lot of people, mainly on Twitter, use the excuse that Vivi asked for fewer amounts of lines because she's shy. Miss me with that shit. Firstly, Loona confirmed that they are given their lines, they don't choose them or have any input on which lines they sing. Second, Vivi has always been confident in herself, and so I see no reason for her to shy away from lines. She hasn't worked hard for years to want to be in the background. If Vivi can handle a solo song, then I think she can handle more than 2 seconds of lines. Vivi is one of the kinder and more sensitive members of Loona, but this shouldn't be misinterpreted as her being shy and unconfident in herself. If we're being honest, the only time I've ever seen her lack confidence is during this era. I honestly feel so sad for Vivi. You can tell she's not her usual self, she hardly smiles or laughs in interviews, in performances she looks unhappy and sometimes bored, which I don't blame her for, by the way. She gets absolutely no screen time, center time, or lines, so she has nothing to look forward to in the performance. Therefore it's pretty clear that her confidence has gone down a lot. I'm only speculating, but the lack of lines probably has something to do with it. The one thing I've seen being brought up over and over and over again is that Vivi being Chinese means that she is less capable of having lots of lines. Absolutely not, you complete fool. Let me just debunk that real quick. Firstly, Vivi is a very good Korean speaker. The members of Loona say it themselves, and she has absolutely no trouble speaking Korean. If Vivi had serious difficulty speaking Korean, which she does not, then she shouldn't have been added to the group. Vivi gave up a modeling and acting career in Hong Kong to become an idol. She works extremely hard and is really talented, and how does she get paid back for her hard work and sacrifice? She doesn't, and it's honestly so sad. If BBC knew they weren't going to utilize Vivi, then it would have been less hurtful to not add her in the first place. Imagine having a whole ass Vivi in your group and not utilizing her talents at all. BBC clown shit. I touched on this earlier, but Vivi has an entire solo song written in Korean, which she was able to perform just fine with confidence. I think if she can handle an entire song written in Korean, she can handle more than 2 seconds of lines. Vivi is one of the strongest English speakers in the group. Given that Loona songs are written in both Korean and English, Vivi would be the perfect candidate to sing the English lines, but she doesn't even get to do that. Lastly, don't you dare insult Vivi's intelligence. People think that Korean idols are perfectly capable of singing in English, but when a Chinese idol is singing in Korean, they are unable to do it. They're both singing in their second languages, there is no difference. Interesting that people think a Chinese person is less capable of speaking a different language than a Korean person is. And when I say that it's interesting, I mean that it's racist. Check yourself and don't spread stupid opinions like this. You look like a damn fool. Speaking of racism, let's discuss the producer of So What, Lee Soo-man, CEO of SM Entertainment, who has a long history of mistreating his Chinese idols in favor of his Korean ones. Keeping this in mind, do you really think it's a coincidence that Vivi, the only non-Korean member of Loona, who just so happens to be Chinese, gets close to no lines in So What? I personally don't think it's a coincidence at all. If I'm right, it is absolutely disgusting that Vivi is being mistreated due to her nationality. Even if the excuse that Vivi cannot speak Korean well enough is valid, which it is not, it doesn't limit other members from getting lines. Let's talk about how Go-won and Yeojin, previously lead rappers of the group, ended up with no rap lines in So What. However, members who have never rapped before ended up with multiple rap lines. Surely it would make sense for them to be rappers in their most rap-heavy song to date. Vivi also holds a rapping position, and yet barely got any lines beyond Hey. Go-won may have a softer tone which is more difficult to use in a concept like this, however that's what bridges and verses are for, and she definitely could have done Jinsoul's rap part. Besides, if the lines were really distributed on concept, Go-won would have been top 3-4 lines in Butterfly, but of course she was 4th from bottom. And in the case of Yeojin, all of her lines sounded great, but again the problem is quantity. Her tone is really well suited to this concept, it's youthful, bright and loud. Now let's move on to my final thoughts and conclusions. So firstly, line distributions absolutely matter in the message that they send to the consumer. When some members constantly get no lines, it sends the message to the casual listener that those members are not as important. This is especially problematic given the foundation which Loona was built upon, 12 girls who can all hold their own talent-wise as soloists, any of which could become the main vocalist, main rapper etc. in future comebacks. To undermine this foundation is a real shame to me, and I truly hope that the distributions can improve in the future, because all 12 members deserve to shine, not just the 5 members handpicked by BBC and Lee Soo-man. I also think that as fans we shouldn't defend this line distribution, we should be calling out the company because otherwise nothing will change, and that would be doing all of the girls a disservice. It's especially important to call out the company in this case because So What is undeniably their most successful era so far, and so it's possible that BBC will continue with this marketing strategy if they think that this is a good way to gain popularity. I can see the toll that this is taking on Vivi. Her self-confidence is going down the drain and it's pretty obvious why. Her talent is constantly being undermined in favor of other members for no conceivable reason. If you watch her fancams, she's absolutely serving. Her dancing looks great, but you can see on her face that she's not happy. It's probably a mixture of a lot of things, but I'm willing to bet that lack of attention from the company is a big reason. Vivi is not a backup dancer, she is a member of Loona who is just as valuable as Hyunjin, Kim Lip and Chu. She should be treated as such. It's not fair to prioritize certain members, and it reflects badly on BBC and the group when the member who has constantly been left out since debut is the only foreign member. It's not even just a disservice for the girls with very few lines, but also for the girls who are constantly singing and in the center, because they must be getting so extremely exhausted. This is their longest and busiest promotional period so far, and you can tell it's taking a toll on them. I hope for better line distributions in the future, for a more happy and fair future for Loona. I care so much for these girls and want what is best for each and every one of them, not just a few. I hope my opinion has shown you why line distributions are more important than it may seem at first. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me, I'm happy to discuss in the comments. I hope that you enjoyed this video, see you next week, bye. Stan Loona, the future of the industry.